All right, we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Science. This show is jointly hosted by Science for Society, Indian Humanists, South Asian Humanist Association, and Babu Gogineni Humanists and Rationalists Arena Facebook group. I'm Sharath, and joining me today in this episode are Jyothsna Palwai from Chicago and Teja Begari from India. Welcome, Jyothsna and Teja, and you all to this interesting talk show, Let's Talk Science.
Thank you, Sharad.
Thank you, sir. It's a great pleasure.
And today we have a special guest with us. She's Dr. Stella Kafka. So I'll give a quick round of introduction of Dr. Kafka. So Dr. Kafka has an outstanding scientific reputation and research track record. She is the Chief Executive Officer of American Meteorological Society and worked as a director at American Association of Variable Star Observers. After obtaining her bachelor's degree in physics at the University of Athens, Greece, she moved to the United States and earned her master's and PhD in astronomy with a double minor in physics and geophysical sciences. There, she also received the Hollis and Greig Johnson Award for excellence in graduate student research. After completing her PhD, Dr. Kafka held a series of prestigious postdoctoral positions and fellowships. First, at the Cerro Tololo Inter-American Observatory in Chile, where she received the National Optical Astronomy Observatory Excellence Award, then at Caltech's Infrared Processing and Analysis Center, IPAC, and as a NASA Astrobiology Institute Fellow at the Carnegie Institution of Washington. As the Executive Director of the AAVSO, which is the American Association of Variable Star Observers, Dr. Kafka aspires to build strong communities of professional and amateur astronomers who jointly work towards understanding some of the most dynamic phenomena in the universe. Dr. Kafka resides in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with her puppy Ruru when she is not stargazing, managing the Variable Star Observatory, or making significant scientific discoveries. She enjoys reading, exercising, and traveling. Welcome, Dr. Stella Kafka, to our show. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Jyothsna Garu, would you like to start the show by asking Dr. Kafka?
Sure. I would actually be interested to know Dr. Kafka on how she started her, how she got interested in astronomy and her journey to lead so many science institutions, and as well as she has been in the forefront of science outreach. Many girls might be viewing this show, so it would be inspiring to them to know her journey.
Thank you for your question. My journey to astronomy was a little bit unconventional. I never had access to clear skies as a child. I grew up in a big city, light pollution and pollution. So the only objects you could see from Athens, Greece was the moon at night, the sun in the morning, and pretty much that's it. And I'm pretty sure that many of your listeners have a similar experience, lots of light polluted big cities. But at the same time, I always loved science. I always loved physics. So I got my bachelor's in physics at the University of Athens simply because I wanted to know how nature works. What makes it tick? How can we break it and put it together again? And physics is fascinating. It shows you all the beauty of physical processes around us and how coordinated nature is, and also how different aspects of our lives are affected by nature itself. So from there, I went to Indiana University for my PhD in astronomy. I was doing a small astronomy project as an undergraduate student, and this is where I discovered that I really love kind of exploring the world around us.
You found
so
your way.
This is where, yeah, even from a theoretical standpoint, remember, I was still in a light polluted area and I didn't have access to big telescopes. But the first time that I saw the entire night sky, and it was at Kitt Peak in Arizona, it was a dark night. The atmosphere was not even moving, no turbulence or nothing. I fell in love. I'm like, you know something, this is what I want to do, and I made the right decision. And in principle, astronomy is physics, right? So we're
Right.
using the laws of physics to explain the world around us, and you never look back from there. As you mentioned, I've had different positions, different research paths, etc. Which took me to the American Association Variable Star Observatory, AVSO, where I was doing a lot of outreach, very interested in popularizing science, in communicating science, and making sure that we connect the public with scientific projects, those who really want to do science, get their hands dirty with data. And now I am at the American Meteorological Society, which is more or less a professional society that works with in the climate, water, weather enterprise. The mission of the American Meteorological Society is to advance the atmospheric and related sciences, technologies, applications, and services for the benefit of society. So now I'm a little bit more applied. I'm working towards making sure that good science finds its way to the innovators that are coming up with solutions and keeping people safe. I mean, we're dealing with climate change, hazardous weather conditions, water sanitation, things like that. So not necessarily a straight line, but if not anything else, if there's one take-home message from that, is that be open to opportunities and follow your dreams. And at some point, don't make too many specific plans in your life. You never know what life is going to throw at you and how you can take advantage of that and grow as a person and help the world around you.
It appears that your message is that don't be afraid to explore things and then take it forward.
Absolutely, 100%. Don't be even afraid to feel uncomfortable. I mean, every time that you make a different move in your life or career, there's going to be this fear of of the unknown, right?
Right.
It's okay.
Right. Yeah.
It's okay.
So, Dr. Stella, I mean, you worked for American Association of Variable Star Observers in the past. You enabling collection and archival of observations, and also like strengthening collaboration between both amateur astronomers and professional astronomers, right? So, what would you tell to the curious minds are some of the benefits of the citizen science? Do you have any interesting stories that that you think are a result of citizen science?
Actually, I can tell you that citizen scientists are some of the most careful scientists I've ever met, and more rigorous. These are individuals whose life and employment does not depend on producing science and coming up with papers and teaching and coming up with more papers, etc. So the publish or perish that we have in academia does not apply to them. So what that means is that they can capture a problem that has been around for a long time and be rigorous and careful in collecting data and analyzing it, and actually come up with really great answers that scientists bring in their own work afterwards, professional scientists. So I guess I think that we're all scientists, right? So professional scientists would take the results of non-professional scientists in their own research. So there's a synergy there, how we push science forward between citizen scientists and professional scientists. I guess that in my mind, there are two types of scientists: those who are getting paid to do science and those who are not getting paid to do science.
Science.
But there's a lot of amazing contributions exactly because of the careful work that individuals who consider astronomy or any scientific field as a hobby, as a passion, are making every day, and things that professional scientists miss because they just don't have the time to dig much deeper in a problem. High respect everywhere.
Yeah. We have Teja right in front of us, who is a standing example of what one can do as being part of citizen science. And
just to plug in, Teja was the youngest and still is the youngest AVSO ambassador we've had at the AVSO. And that is because he's so accomplished and so smart that we could not have him as an ambassador. So we're really very, very fortunate for him to join our family early on in his career. There's lots of promise there, and I'm looking forward to following his career.
I bet.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That means a lot for me. Yeah.
Congratulations, Teja.
Thanks again.
And Dr. Kafka, one curious question. So you might have billions of data, millions of data points, right, from all these citizen scientists.
Mm-hmm.
How do you filter or how do you make sense of meaningful information from these data points?
Yeah, this is always a big challenge at the AVSO, right? So there are two different things that are going on with the data. The data is submitted to the AVSO database, and then it's being checked by a group of volunteers that are led by AVSO staff to make sure that data, there are no small mistakes that we can actually capture right away. The mistakes that I'm mentioning have absolutely nothing to do with the observers' capabilities. Things happen, especially if you're using instruments that are automatic. Glitches in the software happen, mistyping of a number might happen, things like that. So we want to make sure that everything like that is captured before the data goes to the database. And there are lots of times where AVSO staff contact the observers to actually ask them to check a couple of things in their data acquisition software and perhaps resubmit their data. The second has to do with how is the data disseminated and used by those who are interested in specific research projects. And the AVSO has databases that actually curate that data long term, both for variable stars and for the sun. Remember, our sun, our own little star, is a variable star itself. So there is a very rich database of solar data there. And from there on, researchers can actually come and download the data for free and use them for their own purposes. And actually, sometimes individuals are using the data standalone, AVSO data standalone, or they combine them with data acquired either with satellites or with at different wavelengths with different kind of equipment. So the AVSO databases, and now there's a spectroscopy database as well, are a great resource that bring all this wealth of data come from citizen science to the professional community to actually help push science forward. It's a complementary database, or it's a database standalone that can actually produce great science. And there's not enough researchers to study all those stars. So there's lots of future there if people want to actually study. By researchers, by the way, I mean both professional astronomers, students and their teachers, and anyone else who might want to be involved with a small research project.
Okay. Shraddha, do you want to take? I actually have one more. Like on the now that you are leading or you are holding an executive position at American Meteorological Society, I just want to touch on climate change related things. So we in the recent intergovernmental panel on climate change report, it's mentioned that we only have 10 years to reduce this global carbon emissions by 50%. And that to revert this catastrophic planetary warming of 3 degrees Fahrenheit, right? Now we are seeing the impact of this climate change in real time, playing in the form of several extreme weather events, right? Now, what kind of agencies do we need to address this urgency?
Pretty much anyone, anywhere. Frankly, climate change is not something that one country or one agency can address by themselves. It's the whole world. It's something that is affecting everybody. It's not that, perhaps here in the US or in India, people locally can decide to take action and they will get rid of the effects of climate change momentarily. We all need to come up with a much more concise and much more unified strategy and actually act on it. And this is where we as a planet are failing ourselves. Because no matter how many discussions, how many decisions, how many scientific studies or white papers are published out there, we are very much in danger of not coming up with the required reduction of CO by 2030. 2030 is an artificial number. Maybe it's going to happen before that. And therefore that 2-3 degrees increase will be permanent. We'll have to live with it. It's not going to be the end of the world in the sense that, you know, the planet is not going to implode, but we're going to start seeing more extreme phenomena. And that from historical records, we know that has led to both social and societal and environmental changes. And I'm not really sure that we are prepared for that. So buckle up. We're up for a very interesting 50, 100 years ahead. I really don't know. I'm just hoping that somehow we'll all gain the wisdom and act now.
Yeah, I hope so. I echo your sentiment. Over to you, Sarath.
Thanks, Jyothsna. So, Dr. Kafka, I think I'll just take a different route now. You have a stellar resume. If we look at it, and you have worked not just as an astronomer, also as as an astrobiology. You worked, had a career as an astrobiologist, as a fellow in astrobiology as well, and the geophysics part. I mean, you have like expertise in all these things. So, what's the most exciting thing that you have worked on, that you can think of, the first thing that comes to your mind when you look at your career, at your research career, or even something that you're doing now?
You know, it's like asking a parent to tell you which one of their kids are the favorite. I can't exactly tell you that. I love science. I really love everything that they've done. I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I had to work in different places, use different equipment, take my own data, play with it, and also work on my own projects, like design my own projects and find money for them and actually support myself through those funds and my science. I can tell you that my very favorite discovery so far, not one of mine, but my very favorite discovery is the one that hasn't been made yet. So I'm really looking for, no pressure for the scientists out there. I'm really looking forward to the future of science, because right now we have so many new technological capabilities that no one knows what's going to happen next. Maybe we are going to find some kind of life form, perhaps different sort of life form on a different planet around a different star. Maybe we will find the Earth-Sun twin somewhere out there. Maybe we will understand what these nova eruptions are doing and what the progenitors of supernova 1A finally are that we're using as standard candles. Maybe we will resolve the whole cosmological constant thing, figure out what the universe is going to be doing. Is it going to expand, collapse, play yo-yo? I don't know, I really don't. And so many different, amazing different discoveries within our solar system. Still people are looking for planet X, right? A planet who's within our solar system has been predicted to have some gravitational push-pull with the rest of our planets, but no one has discovered it. Everybody's theorizing about it. Or we'll discover something new about our sun that has data for 400 years now, and every new solar cycle is surprising us. So we live in the golden era of science. It's amazing what we as humans can do. And I am looking forward to what's going to happen next. Now, about my own work, as I said, I love everything I'm doing. And I wish I had the time to work more in science right now. I am at the phase of my life and my career where I aspire to support science. aspire to open doors and make sure that individuals who are working in science have avenues to communicate it, avenues to actually publish it, ways to come together and discuss about scientific advances and build collaborations, but also make sure that science comes to your everyday people because it does affect their life. And it's pretty much all the scientific advances that we're making is for us to make the world and our lives better. So scientists at heart and explorer deep inside, and I'm looking forward to what's going to happen in the future. I know I'm not answering directly to your question, but frankly, I can't choose. That's the bottom line.
So, Dr. Kafka, then, and so you have a career as a scientist, and you also have a career as a leader, as a mentor, and as a vocal proponent in your leadership for a lot of inclusion in scientific research and in leadership as well. So, what kind of satisfaction did you or fulfillment these kind of initiatives have brought into you? And what do you want to talk something about those initiatives that you took as a leader?
I do believe that so in my life, my career, my work, my everything that I do believe that diverse voices are making everything that we do, including quality of life, much more rich, much more complete, and much better overall. I do recognize that there have been groups of individuals that have not been provided traditionally the same opportunities. I do understand that nowadays, talking about equality is not enough. We need to talk about equity, not only the opportunities to provide, but also what the background of individuals are, how we can actually help them reach their potential because they're different and because we really want them to grow and provide the best they can be in our society. For me, supporting women in science, promoting girls and providing them with opportunities is a big component of everything I do, simply because women, girls traditionally have not had the opportunities or the role models or actually even a discussion about science in their everyday lives or even at school. And from there on, I hope that we will all learn how to respect and work with each other in order to actually make our world a better place. You know, there are lots of times where people are asking, so why do we need, diverse people in the workplace, for example? And I tell them, okay, listen, if we hire 5 individuals that are exactly like me, they will be able to do exactly what I do, which is not anything different, right? We're not getting anything from that. What we need to do actually is make sure that we have around us individuals that are different than us, because this is how we learn, this is how we grow, this is going to be the roots for innovation, and it's going to be much more fun. I mean, if I want to hire me, just talking to myself in the mirror is so boring. I don't learn anything. I'm not going anywhere. So for me, actually interacting with individuals from all over the world and learning from them is a priority always.
And I think it's interesting that you mentioned how women access to how women are don't have that much access to scientific thinking as in the way they are brought up in societies, and because your field, astronomy, was pretty much pioneered by Henrietta Swan Leavitt. So her work on, she established the standard candle. So anything, pretty much, if we are looking anything beyond our 5 planets, or even the planets or the solar system, if you're looking at stars and trying to measure distances, it's her work that pioneered the whole thing. And it's not even like, I think it's like what, 100 years before, 120 years ago that she did this work, and she was paid, and she did not, she was not like a research scientist in the Harvard Observatory, I think, where she did, and she received credits for graduate school work for her work, which pioneered the field. And then and then she was paid like what, $10 an hour or something, which is in today's equivalent amount. So this itself is a case, the fight, for despite pioneering the field, this is, I mean, we don't even recognize so much. And even today, when you look at it, I mean, and leadership in for women in STEM and science and your field, and in general in other fields also. So being a leader, and a scientist who's also a woman, do you think in your career, in your course of career, there have been some barriers that have been broken by people like yourselves, or what kind of challenges did you face, in that sense, and then what kind of barriers did you break, and what kind of barriers do you think in your generation men have broken towards becoming leaders in STEM?
Where do I start from? Henrietta Levy was one example. Let me tell you the example of the most important scientist or the most important astronomer of the 20th and 21st century, and that is Cecilia Payne-Kapuskin. She was at the Harvard Observatory as well at some point. And what she did was she analyzed light from stars through photographic plates, and she discovered that the sun and other stars are made primarily of hydrogen and helium. Up to that point, we believed that everything in the universe, including our sun, was made of elements very similar to the Earth. So similar to our atmosphere, similar to our soil. And she discovered something different. And actually, when that was part of her thesis, and her thesis advisor advised her not to publish that result because it's ridiculous. And of course, a couple of years later, someone else made the same discovery, and oh yes, of course, absolutely, it's right. She did publish her thesis, by the way. It is the most influential thesis ever made in astronomy. Barriers are everywhere, and they are, some of them are in your face, as in, why am I not being given the same opportunities to go to conferences, or I'm not meeting the same individuals as my male colleagues. And some of them are subconscious. It's a way that individuals are addressing you. It's a way that expectations happen from female astronomers and male. It's a way that you're addressed at conferences. It's a way that you're addressed when you're giving a presentation. And it does have to do with expectations of who you are and what you're doing. I'll tell you the story. A couple of years ago, no, before COVID, my goodness, more than a couple of years ago, I was giving a presentation in front of a group of like 400 people on astronomy research. And usually I'm having a lot of fun when I'm giving talks, and I really love communicating science. At the very end of my presentation, a male colleague of mine came and said, you're very smart for a woman. And I was like, excuse me? And he said, but you know what I mean. I said, nope, I don't know what you're talking about. What exactly is that meant to be? So things like that. It's lots of passive aggressive comments, a lot of lowered expectations, a lot of kind of so right now, I think that we as a society and as a scientific community have become much, much better understanding how we need to even address each other in a respectful way, so that in a professional environment, we're all equal. We're all listening to each other, we're having the same conversation. And if not, if we make a faux pas in our address, we recognize it and we learn from it and we move past it and even apologize. So as women, even minorities in science, it's not just females, that is the unfortunate thing here. As women and minorities in science, we have made some progress when it comes to finding our rightful way in the scientific community and in our society as well. We still have work to do. And that is why it's really important for all of us to at least keep pushing forward until we don't have to have a conversation about conduct, about quality of work, about anything that is related to gender or race or enter enter term.
I think it's interesting that this I think this story that you narrated, where this man came up to you and said, "You must be you're smart for for a woman."
Oh.
So I think in Indian culture there is this other side of the attitude where someone say someone has a career orientation, a woman has a career orientation. They would ask you, they'll you are very well balancing your personal and professional life, where the personal life balance is all about doing household chores. So there are societies where still women are expected to do this. And more famously, there was this film. As you are aware, India has a huge, a big, a rocketry scene with ISRO, with Indian Space Research Organization, where
Yeah.
they send out probes to study planets. So there was this project to study the Mars, and it was called Mangalyaan, and this was made into a film. And in the film, so in fact, actually, there were many leaders in this project who were women, who were scientists who were women, and they in this film, it was shown that so this leader, this scientist who's a woman, so she does the research and she goes home and cooks meals. So when you see, so do you think our cultural portrayals in art of women in this kind of attitude where all right, you can work, you can have a career, but you also have to do this, uh, and this is specifically done only for women. No one really expects a male scientist to take care of kids, and they would say something like, this guy is busy doing this, why would he take care of kids? This kind of attitude is so is still persisting in society. So how would
It's
you how would you look at this, and what would you if young girls who are watching this and listening to you on if they get into this kind of they are going to, how do you think they should be prepared to receive this kind of thing in the future? They are going to receive this kind of thing, but what would you say, and how would you look at this kind of attitude?
I hear what you're saying. In a perfect world, this kind of stereotypes would cease to exist. Actually, in a perfect world, what you want movies and whatever to portray is both individuals, men and women, going home and raising the kids.
Yeah.
Being there for their children, being an active members of their family. You're having a family because you want to raise balanced citizens of the world. You want to teach them something for a better future, etc., right? And you do. Cooking can be something that people enjoy doing, but if it's an obligation, as in, I am going to have a full-time job, but as a female, I'm expected to go home and clean the whole house and cook for everybody and take care of whatever and do laundry. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. And that does two things for people, for society. The first one is those expectations that women should traditionally take care of the household, where men's job is much more important and contribution much more important, so they should be left alone. And actually, that's not fair for men either. Again, if you want to spend time with your family, if you want to cook for your family, if you want to clean the house, etc., you should be doing it. And the second one is it creates impossible role models for women.
Yeah.
There is no way you can be excellent in your job and you can be satisfying all the needs of the household. There are 24 hours in a day and you're only human. So it's an extra pressure that leaves women with this lack of satisfaction on both on the personal and the professional lives, and that leads to a very unhappy life. So we really need to start kind of realizing that of what kind of choices we have, what kind of choices we make. When I was in graduate school and I was working actually 20 hours a day, there were times where I just would go home and sit on the couch all weekend and not clean the house, and that's okay, right? And I was living by myself, just a disclaimer. But at that time, if you were to visit my place, you'd be like, what is all the dust here? Well, guess what? I've been working 20 hours a day for the full week, including weekends. There's time, for for decompression, right? We're only human. Me getting sick would not help anyone. So I think that the key to that, apart from a change in mentality and a change in role models, and change of the conversation that we're having, for women, is to actually have a partner who is understanding and who respects them as people. A person who is not exactly a traditional individual, has this kind of expectations, and they realize that the partnership, being a relationship, is something that needs to be satisfactory for both, and we both need to pull our weight. And that's exactly what's happening in my life. Actually, I'm very, very very proud and very fortunate to have met a man who's just helping. We live together, right? We both live in this house. So pulling his weight while I'm pulling mine. And yeah, again, both of us are professionals, and we have a lot of work, and there are times where no one empties the dishwasher. It's fine. No one cleans the house. It's fine. Just, give ourselves a little bit of slack goes a long way, both for physical and for mental health.
Hopefully the day comes soon when we don't discuss this question of balancing both career and personal life.
Which is portrayed in a very condescending way of, saying that, women are great multitaskers.
Let me burst that bubble, because I've done my best work when I didn't have to multitask, where I could actually focus on one thing and concentrate there. Otherwise, I've never been satisfied with what I was doing. It's too much of a distraction, really.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no such thing called multitasking in the truest sense. I mean, you work, take something to a logical end, and then come back to something else. And there's a lot of switching time involved. Your things get lost. So,
Sarath, your question makes me add one more thing. The communication aspect, right? In that particular movie where the scientist was portrayed to come home and cook back, right? That also has something to do with the way we communicate, both in portraying the art and as well as communicating science, right? So, Dr. Kafka, we at Science for Society have been working towards publicizing science and also work towards a greater understanding of science engagement in the public life and culture. We have been creating platforms for science communicators where they can present topics. So you have been at the forefront of science outreach activities, and you have been a manager for many journals, right? So in your experience, what have been the best approaches that you think can better the science communication?
Anything and everything that you can think of, and it changes. Okay, so I'm going to show my age if I tell you that when I was in graduate school, we didn't have Facebook. So, technology, again, surprises us and it enables us to connect. Look at this, we're talking on Zoom, right? And we are different parts of the world and different time zones, and yet we feel that we are around a table, and I'm having my tea here, and we're having tea all together.
I think 70 years ago, a lot of science publications were done in German, not even in English. So.
Lots of things, and 300 years ago, it was all happening in Latin and Greek, because that was the scientific language. We were moving forward. I do remember as a graduate student, I was going to the library, a big room with lots of books and journals, and I was actually flipping through journals to find the article of interest. And right now, you just click, click, click. You don't even have to move from your couch to actually do the same thing. When it comes to communication, things are advancing. They're advancing really fast. The challenging part is actually to keep up with them. Depending on the audience that you want to reach out to, you want to reach a younger audience or a much more mature audience, you need to understand how they're used to communicate. Different generations use different things. And again, I'm going to show my age by saying that I am on Facebook, and my niece told me that, you must be old,
Old to be on
It
Facebook.
broke my heart. 9 years old, really. So that is a challenge when it comes to outreach, when it comes to communication, when it comes to connection, building communities, right? How do people want to connect? That's one. And the second one, with the advance of technology, with the advance of all these possibilities that we have, threats come in as well, right? So suddenly we've been immersed in the whole idea of trolls who are just causing trouble online and through our communities just because it's fun, whatever. So how do you make sure that the community stays focused and respectful in their interactions? Respect is extremely important, and you don't have individuals who want to cause harm kind of intervene and break trust amongst members. So yeah. My favorite mode of communication, frankly, is in person. I love meeting people in person. For the last 2.5 years, it hasn't been possible. But again, I'm really grateful for Zoom.
Yeah.
Platforms like this.
Teja, would you like to ask Dr. Kafka anything before we move to another topic?
Yeah, but like kind of technical questions related to climate change and a little bit of citizen science. So this question is, what kind of tools do meteorologists use other than the satellite thing to know about the sky or know about the weather, to be precise? So what exactly is done in the American Meteorological Society, and how do you collect the data of the climate change and erratic weather patterns? So what exactly is basically done, and what other kind of techniques are used other than satellites?
They're actually satellites quite recent. It's the more I get involved with the American Meteorological Society and the scientists that are involved in there, the more I'm amazed by the crazy ways that people are collecting data. So one of the very important things, climate change is something that we have been monitoring for decades, and it's something that anthropogenic climate change, right? And it's something that is very well documented by monitors all over the world, and we're still documenting it both from ground-based sources and from space. One of the very urgent focal points, let me say that, of climate and weather scientists is actually trying to find techniques of predicting hazardous weather way in advance in order to let people know, especially when it comes to conditions that are very unusual, that could cause floods, that could cause hurricanes, or eventually loss of life. What you really want to do is at least let communities know that something is coming way in advance and try to protect them, right? Just try to minimize loss of life and property if possible. There are so many different techniques. I mean, my atmospheric science friends are just grabbing their equipment when there's a storm coming, and they're going towards the storm to take information about the storm. It's actually insane. People used to fly in the eye of hurricanes. So you have this big weather front that is happening, and they want to get more data, grab a plane and fly through it. And it's insane, right? And they survive to tell the story. Now, of course, we use drones, and there are other kind of techniques to do something like that, but they still do it. And again, the more data that you're collecting from different locations would help inform models, theoretical models that help us understand a little bit how the atmosphere works, how the Earth, how the different atmospheric layers community interacts with different parts of the planet, how changes even in infrastructure here on Earth affect local climate. I mean, when you're building a skyscraper, when you're building tall buildings, that changes actually the the flow of air within that particular city. So it creates a different sort of microclimate. It's such, I thought the universe was complicated. Well, let's stick to our own little planet. That is extremely complicated. And exactly because all those models, advice, again, try to keep people really safe. That is why this particular work that scientists from the American Meteorological Society are doing is extremely, extremely urgent and important. One of the ways that we are facilitating, so as a professional society, we have a whole bunch of activities that help bring those individuals together. We don't have databases. There's so many databases out there that it wouldn't make sense to actually try to bring data together. What we have is journals that allow, actually very high profile journals that allow the scientists to write up their science and disseminate and share it with other people. We have several meetings, both topical and much more general, where individuals come together and discuss different scientific aspects. We have webinars, we have online webinars, both for professional atmospheric scientists, but also for those who want to learn. So there's so much interest when it comes to weather. I mean, even my next door neighbor has a weather station. I mean, why not? You can do it. There's a small little kit. You can do it very easily. And we're all interested in what the weather looks like, right? So there are lots of people who really want to learn more about how science is being conducted in different aspects, again, of the weather, water, climate enterprise. We have a very rigorous accreditation program, and that is one of the things that is much more focused here in the US, when local teachers and broadcast meteorologists can get their credit, like the credential, let's say, that actually counts for towards the career, etc. We have a very, very rich educational program that is teaching pretty much teachers how to speak about climate change, different aspects of weather, different aspects of water. Remember, most of the earth is full of water, right? So that is part of our ecosystem, part of who we are and what affects us. So there's lots of activities that we have across the board of the AMS. And through those activities, we're both helping scientists produce as much science as they can. We also have a very active policy program where we are producing reports that eventually go to politicians. And actually, this is open to everyone all over the world because those aspects are extremely important everywhere again. So these are ways that we're helping citizens to actually learn more about items that the scientific subjects that they're interested in, and help scientists come together and produce this, and produce and promote and learn from science or scientific advancements. We also have a group of individuals from industry. So the AMS is a very interesting professional society in that it brings together academia, government, and industry, those who come up with solutions that are being driven by climate change. So there's a climate change, weather, and all the data comes out. So it's a very, very wide range of activities for a very, very rich and very diverse community. In terms
really
of
shows that it's a very diverse
everywhere. I can keep talking, but I think that you get the point here.
Yeah.
You get the gist of this.
And well, because today is the World Environment Day, how well is climate related to environment, and how well is, say, the good climate affects the environment, and how both of them are interlinked?
Well, the environment is the world around us. Climate is one of the things that affects it, right? So they're interconnected. You're studying the environment. You're studying climate through studying the environment. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
You're studying weather. Yeah.
What are the main reasons you believe are, say, for the anthropogenic global warming? The name itself says, but what are the main reasons to the global warming other than the pollution and say basically the pollution? What are the other reasons?
I'm going to tell you what science tells us, what I believe is relevant. And I believe in science, by the way. So science tells us that anthropogenic climate change is driven by all the activities that we're having in our everyday life, from flying planes to industry to using our car all the time. So, or even creating trash, like in abundance. So based on that, we just need to do our part and reduce those activities as much as possible. That's as much as I can tell you without getting into very excruciating detail.
And one last question from my side is, it's out of my interest. Are there any kind of citizen science projects one can do at the AMS? Like, are there any kind of citizen science projects one can do with the help of, say, on climate change, or how can one understand them and do projects related to climate change? To be more precise, the citizen science projects at the AMS.
So we don't have projects per se. What we have is webinars and information. So if you want to learn more about different aspects of weather, water, and climate, we have what we call a weather band. It's a series of webinars where you get to actually talk to scientists who are doing specific sciences. So one of the latest ones was on lightning, which is super, super interesting, because we don't think about lightning as a source of energy or as a hazard for us. And yet it actually causes a lot of trouble. It was on weather band there. So we are producing mostly information. There are citizen science projects through other organizations that are targeting individuals to collect data and or analyze different types of data, but not through the AMS. We're focused on disseminating science and making sure that we are helping people get the information they need the way they need it. Scientific literacy is extremely important for all of us at every level of the society.
So, Dr. Kafka, we have been talking about the climate change and the need to act upon it hastily, because we don't have much time, and a decade to do a lot of things is when we look at it politically, and when we even broaden the scope to geopolitics, it becomes very difficult to get things done within such short span of time, given all the stakeholders involved and all that. So, and despite that, do you see denial of climate change is among especially in circles, in political circles, where there is authority involved and there is a lot of power involved and there is a lot of decision making involved, that is hinged upon this myth that this denial of climate change, and making people believe because it would be useful to exercise decision. Do you think that is a big hindrance to do whatever is needed to offset the climate change effects across the world? Do you think that's there?
If you don't believe in something, then you won't do anything about it, right? So the bottom line is that, yes, all this disbelief, as if, science needs you to believe of anything. Science is data-driven. When we read, we just follow what data tells us. And granted, with time, the data acquisition techniques and our knowledge of how to analyze it have improved, so we get better data. There still are deniers of climate change. But something, no one can deny that we have more wildfires than we ever had before. We have more tornadoes than we ever had before. We have more random, bizarre weather phenomena that we ever had before, and they affect us, and they affect our livelihood, and they affect our lives, and they affect the way we interact with each other. they affect our travel, and they affect our work. So in as much as, people don't believe, quote unquote, in climate change, experiencing the outcome of climate change is undeniable. Here in the US, last year alone, we had about 20 to $25 billion disaster outcomes. So each one of them costs more than $1 billion to recover, and we still haven't recovered. So it's the outcomes of this erratic weather, the outcomes of climate change right now is affecting our economy. It's affecting the way we live. It's affecting people's health. It's affecting people's food production, and it's definitely disruptive when it comes to transfer of goods. So if you have all those floods in one part of the US, for example, and you have wildfires on the other, trucks won't be able to travel between coasts. Goods won't be able to go between coasts. If you have tornadoes nonstop on one part of the United States, ships won't be able to dock. Goods won't be able to come. And think about being on a plane, right? So we're talking about disruption in our everyday life. So believing or not believing climate change right now is completely relevant because it's real.
And this is, I think what I think you pretty much stated a plain fact, out loud. But would you think, the propaganda, the pseudoscientific propaganda, or this kind of propaganda that is politically motivated, is being done in a very sophisticated manner these days? In earlier days, I mean, these are the lobbyists, or those are the journalists who write about climate science denial, or who publish literature about this climate science denial. They are not like the crystal healers. They don't say trust in this and believe us and this will happen. So they're constructing this argument in a very sophisticated manner. For example, they have papers to cite. Either these could be false positives, or these could be having publication bias, and there could be a bunch of reasons why these papers even came into print, came into existence. But they would get these papers, and they start writing based on these, citing these. And in your career, you also worked as a journal manager. So would you see this is a rampant issue in publications? And this is may not be just limited to climate science. Climate science is a very hot topic where it's misused a lot, where it's used a lot. And even in alternative medicine like homeopathy, or even vaccine hesitancy, a lot of these things which are anti-science and which are against the scientific consensus are being actually driven through sophisticated arguments that refer to these papers. Do you see that issue is there, and do you think skeptics, scientific skeptics and bloggers who write for public understanding of science need to be vigilant about this? And what do you think the way we should combat this kind of sophisticated nonsense, fashionable nonsense?
In the publishing world, one of the big services that reputable scientific journals provides to science is the peer review process. It's a process where a manuscript is going to anonymous referees, more than one, who are experts in the field, and ask them their opinion on the content and whether the scientific method has been adequately followed. The right data is being collected, the right models are being constructed in order to reach a specific conclusion in the paper. Now, what we have sadly, on this planet is what we call predatorial journals. These are journals that and publications that publish anything. So if you pay them, they're going to just publish things without even considering the scientific integrity of the content, even the correctness of the content, and the data that is being collected, etc. Now, these type of journals are very well known. And that is why scientists prefer to every scientist will go to journals that are reputable, journals like the ones that the American Meteorological Society is publishing, where they trust and they know that their science is not going to be misinterpreted and or be among random stuff. Now, you're right. There are lots of individuals who are taking advantage of that, and they're just promoting their own beliefs as being scientific proof. Predators always existed in society. I think that the fact that those individuals exist, and I'm pretty sure that they're serving their own interests one way or another, because disinformation is not just for disinformation's sake. There's something behind that. There's some kind of interest. Usually it's financial, usually it's controlling opinions, usually is seeking power, et cetera, et cetera. Those individuals, again, exist. And in principle, there's nothing we can do to make them stop. The one thing, though, we can do in order to fight that kind of war against information is to make sure that work that you are doing is upfront and center and appreciated and it's augmented as much as possible. In other words, to make sure that individuals have access to science and they are provided that information the way they understand it. It's true that scientists use a lot of jargon. Jargon exists in every profession, right? Even if you're a medical doctor, if you're a gardener, if you are a builder, you have your own jargon. But what that means is that this is a set of words that only you and your colleagues can understand and not everybody else. Scientists, we have a huge responsibility to communicate the outcomes of our research to everybody. Because the bottom line is that the reason why we're doing research is to improve everybody's life, right? Our everyday life. It's not science for the sake of science. It's information in order to create a better world, in order to create better products, in order to promote technology, et cetera, et cetera. So you're making an excellent point in that, yeah, there are people who are taking advantage, all over the world, who are taking advantage of misinformation. Well, the one way to reverse that is to actually explain science to individuals and try to instill as much trust on data and the scientific method.
Dr. Kafka, while we are on this topic of pseudoscience, I just want to touch upon astrology. So I'm not sure about US and other parts, but back in India, it's astrology and the religious market, spiritual and religious market, has grown disproportionately. I mean, people usually have a natural tendency to know about the future, right? So in this process of wanting to know a chance of getting a job, or maybe how their marriages last, or when to make investments, so they reach out to the astrologers to make some decisions, right? So they think that astrology is built on the foundation that a relationship exists between the celestial bodies, like influence. There may be influence of stars, zodiac signs on us, right? So as an astrophysicist, do you believe, or is there any truth to that celestial bodies affect our everyday aspect of our life?
You know, we're talking about beliefs here and about religion, and that is a completely different story. What people believe is a very personal issue, right? And what they trust. There is no scientific proof that astrology has any effect on people's lives. And I can tell you that one celestial object, the sun, is the only thing that affects our life, in the sense that, you know, it provides heat, and it provides vitamin D, and it keeps us safe, and it keeps us happy every day. Nothing to do with any gravitational push-pull or whatever. Just the fact that we need an energy source to survive. It's very interesting. I had the opportunity to teach undergraduate astronomy when I was in Indiana at the beginning of my career, and I would dedicate a full hour on how we cast our horoscope. What on earth is a horoscope? I mean, how astrologers work. And the first thing that I would talk about is that the zodiac that we have right now, especially in the Western world, was built by Babylonians, ancient Babylonians. So this is something that has been around for 4,000 years. Now, having said that, the Earth's axis, the Earth is rotating around its axis, right? The Earth's axis is not stable. It's moving, and it has what we call precession. It has this precession period of 27,000 years. So within those 4,000 years, the skies that we see throughout the year is different. So the zodiacs that are connected to months of the year, or were connected to months of the year 4,000 years ago, are completely different than what's happening right now. So here's an example, right? We're using an ancient system to explain today's world, not even taking into account that it's a different view of the sky, right? So
someone even came up with the 13th zodiac sign, just to make.
I don't know.
Someone came in. There are 12 zodiac signs, right? So there was a proposition. There was a proposal to bring 13. 13 zodiac signs to compensate the whole.
I remember that. I remember I was still in Greece when that happened, and there was a big panic amongst astrologers. It's not up to you on whether there's another constellation. Actually, we have 88 constellations in the night sky. So doesn't it look a little bit arbitrary to choose the ones you want and not to choose the ones you don't like, and God forbids? So again, as with religion, astrology is something that people believe. And I'm going to go back to what you mentioned at the very beginning of your question, actually. And this is the fact that people are really afraid of uncertainty. People really want to know what's happening in the future. People want to know that there's some safety in the future. There's something that is predictable, something that they follow because it's meant to be. That is why they go to astrologers, and that's why they go to tarot readers, and that's why palm reading is very popular, and people really read their horoscope first thing in the morning because they want to know what's going to happen that day. No one really likes surprises, and that just plays with our nature. So I do understand why individuals have the need to know their future. I feel that our future is not predetermined. I know that our future is not predetermined. Otherwise, it would be so boring. It was so boring. It would be as if we would have free will. And I believe we do have free will. And that's actually free will is embedded in every single religion that exists out there.
And astrology is so pervasive in Indian society that, for example, astrology, as you said, there is, people have morning coffee and then they also look at morning horoscope in the newspaper, if they have a newspaper, or they even get alerts these days, from apps. This is your horoscope. And
they're advancing too.
Yeah. So
just an example. There was a time where I had 3 or 4 different apps for horoscopes on my phone on purpose. Because every time people were asking me, do you do astrology? Do you believe in astrology? I would ask them their sign, and they would tell me, and then I would read every single prediction from the apps that were completely different. And I would tell them, so the bottom line is just sit down, do absolutely nothing today, and we'll talk again tomorrow.
And it's so pervasive that you have astrologers who go on predicting elections, and they not just predict, local or federal elections in India. There was one astrologer who recently passed away who predicted even the U.S. presidential election of 2016. And like all pollsters, he predicted that Hillary Clinton would win. But unfortunately, planets are not in our favor. I mean, they did not dawn their blessings upon us. So we all know what happened. So the astrologer was wrong. So as all the pollsters, all of those, including 538 and
with
everyone, and who made these predictions. And
even with
interestingly,
elections, when you're having to deal with groups of people that are satisfied or dissatisfied, your chance of getting especially when you have two candidates, the chance of getting your predictions right is 50%. So it's
so
either
I mean,
or.
we would rather we can even toss a coin. I mean, rather than going to an astrologer and pay. That's pretty much the same odds.
Which is right.
So and it is super, and even the extent of influence of astrology is so much that marriages are pretty much based out on astrology, on their horoscopes. So in India, a lot of marriages are overwhelming lot of marriages are still arranged marriages. So, and where the main criteria of even proceeding with a match is whether their horoscopes are compatible or not. So astrologers do actually have a lot of power or a lot of control over people's life. People have family astrologers. They might not even have family doctors, but they have family astrologers. So, and when it comes to when I think you mentioned the thing about belief and fact, and dealing with uncertainty in life. And ironically, the profession that deals with uncertainty on everyday basis, the science profession in India. If you look at ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, so whenever they launch a rocket, it is very customary for them to to get an auspicious time set up for this. And recently, when Chandrayaan 2 happened, so the head of ISRO, Dr. Shivan, he went to I think the head of he went to a holy seer, and then got an auspicious time set up for the launch of the rocket. And anyway, the mission was the probe did not land on the moon. It was unsuccessful. And but that has no bearing on this fact of having an auspicious time for this. So when you see things like this, where leaders in top elite scientific institutions of India, which is largely still a scientifically illiterate country, a society, where you see these kind of things happening, where they bring in astrology, they bring in auspicious times from all these things into this thing. Say, for example, you send a rocket to Mars to study it. It's called Mangalyaan, and the same Mars, the same Mangal, in your horoscope, it actually destroys your marriage. And you set up and you, as a leader of the rocket institute that's sending this rocket, you set up an auspicious time to please Mars or to please Saturn. I don't know. I mean, maybe you want a gravitational sling. Maybe you want to please Saturn then. So the thing, what do you make out of this? I mean, do you think scientists and leaders in science, they need to keep these things separate, their personal beliefs and professional etiquette, professional commitments? Do you think they should keep separate? What do you see? I mean, when stuff like this happens in a country like India?
Not just in a country like India, in every country on the planet, we are human. That's what I'm going to tell you. And as humans, we represent not only our present, but also our past. And our past is and in our past, culture is very embedded. Have you, here in the US or even in Europe, black cats are considered to be bad luck. And this has nothing to do with the poor felines. They're still cuddly and wonderful and pretty to play with. And still everybody hates black cats. Is that logical? No. Does it have any roots to science? Definitely no. Are we still considering it, right? It's even a reaction when you first see a black cat crossing in front of you, God forbid. Now you go back and you stay home. Yes, because it's part of our culture. It's part of our bringing. I do understand how there is a puzzle in your mind on how can individuals who are so smart, they live and breathe science, also be superstitious this way, right? But at the same time, again, it's part of our culture. You cannot remove that. It's the same reason why sometimes when you set a foundation of a building, you ask a priest to bless the building. Does this have to do with the building itself, or how good it's going to be, or how sturdy it's going to be? The answer is no. It just, people feel much better when something like that happens, simply because it comes from their past. I would respect this kind of activities simply, again, as a cultural norm, and definitely not blame a technological failure to bad alignment of stars. So, you know, if missions are successful, et cetera, we need to recognize there's a human hand in there. There's some kind of a failure or something we did not predict.
It always happens that when it's successful, the credit goes to the planets, and if it is failure, the credit goes to the human. Blame goes to human.
That's not fair, is this? Give credit and failure where it's due. Again, in as much as I don't believe in that, or, you know, I don't think that this is scientifically substantial or substantiated, let's respect culture as well. It's just, and I love black hats, by the way, poor little kittens. So it's something similar. I hear you. I do feel that there's a little bit of an extreme in the attention that astrologers are being given, but again, this is part of your culture. You can't rip it away from it. What you can do is actually contain it. You know, this astrology doesn't have to do with science, and I'm pretty sure there's more than astrology when it comes to marriages. Parents are very careful, very hawkish when it comes to knowing who their kids are going to be with.
So Sharath, more power to youngsters like Teja, who can pull others into the field of science, that can break this.
It's up to people like Teja, to young individuals like Teja, who can just separate the two. But again, let's celebrate our past, right? Yeah. We can't eliminate. We should not eliminate it. I mean, in India, you have such an amazing culture that has provided influences all over the world. So, right? I come from a country with a huge culture as well. Greece has been one of the inspirations of the Western civilization. But think about it, we don't believe in the 12 gods of mythology anymore.
Yeah, definitely. I think yeah. I mean, conserving culture is one thing, and you know, again, figuring out which parts of the culture are relevant and which parts of culture are going to take us forward is one thing, and which parts we have to leave and dismantle or something else. I think.
And
again,
you know,
that's there everywhere. Yeah.
People connect through culture. So if a scientist needs to evoke astrology in order to have people listen to them about a process that happens in nature, I'm fine with that. I am, because, you know, at some point you need to the two to move together. At some point, astrology will actually find its own peace while science will prevail.
So you're saying there is a natural process in which astrology will become decadent and gets thrown into trash by society when it evolves.
Let's see how society evolves.
And
yeah,
Dr.
I think
Kafka,
that people can get tired of things. Yeah.
And now let's have some rapid fire questions. I mean, this is a bit of fun part in the show. So we are going to play a game. It's called is this overrated, or is this underrated, or is this accurately rated? So so we are going to tell you something. So you can just say whether it is overrated or underrated, or yeah, it is rated pretty much accurately. So the first thing is the hype around finding aliens. Intelligent beings, you know. So is it overrated?
Overrated with a promise. So can I be between?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Because, you know, we're seriously looking for alien life forms, but, you know, no UFOs came to abduct anyone. I know. So alien life is really important.
Yeah. And what about electrical vehicles? Do you think they're overrated or accurately rated or underrated?
Accurately rated for the promise they're providing. We're not going to have electrical vehicles are actually helping with gas emissions.
So you think IC engines by and large will be replaced by EVs in a like 10 years or
I'm
15 years?
hoping if we can change the infrastructure all over the world so we can actually charge them. Every gas station needs to be a charging station, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What about the movie Interstellar? Is it overrated or underrated? What do you think?
I've never seen it. I
Oh,
refused. I because right after it came out, some of my colleagues were complaining about the science faux pas in that movie, and when a movie slaughters science so badly, I just refuse. The one that I really like is actually Carl Sagan's
Contact?
Contact. Thank you.
Jodie Foster. Yeah.
I can forget that. I can forgive that one, but other than that, no.
So even Martian, you do you think it's what?
I watched The Martian. I had to cringe through half of it, but it's not like simply because everyone, he was so highly rated. So Martian was overrated.
What did you think was cringeworthy? I mean, I thought depending on potatoes was cringeworthy. I don't know.
Even the way that you have a vehicle that is dead, solar panels, etc. You just go and dust them, and they start working. Dust goes everywhere. It's not just the panels, the electronics, etc. And that, and then the whole bio thing about his survive. No, and even communication between Earth and Mars. No. Okay, let's forget that movie. Next.
And cats as pets, do you think it's overrated? Cats as pets are overrated or underrated?
I love pets, period. So it's just right.
And what do you think of colonizing Mars? Do you think it's overrated or underrated?
No, but it's going to be a very boring place to live and very restrictive. I love, love, love exploring our planet. So if you want to go colonize Mars, send me a postcard if you can.
Do you think we can nuke Mars and then make it habitable and grow algae or
nuke Mars and make it habitable? Oh my God!
That's Elon Musk's dream.
Okay, so let me translate this, right? So we're going to take a planet that has a little bit of atmosphere, but eventually, potentially, within the next 500 years, could host life. You're going to take a nuclear warhead and throw it on there. So on top of not having a lot of atmosphere, it's going to be nuclear active with a radioactive decay, like a Chernobyl, but in a larger scale. And you expect people to go survive there?
Oh, Elon Musk bets on it. I mean, he says, we can nuke Mars. Why not?
Since Elon Musk said it, it must be true. Oh God, it's a hype.
Yeah, so it's highly overrated. Okay, and what about human level artificial intelligence? Do you think it's overrated or underrated?
You have to remember, artificial intelligence in principle is machine learning. So whatever you feed the code is going to give you. So I think it's just right. It's working well enough now for the problems we wanted to solve, and hopefully it's going to work even better as we keep feeding it. But it's not exactly intelligence. I think that we are confusing ourselves by using a word that is very well recognized, and it's associated call it model with optimization. Intelligence. Model optimization, again, machine learning. That is actually the right word.
But you think we'll have someday robots in the sense that you heard of this Turing test? Do you think machines could pass this Turing test one day? I mean, we've not really recognized whether it's a human or an animal, or a machine that's interacting with us.
Tests are made by humans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and they're very specific. So a machine might actually learn how to solve tests or do things like, sure. And they might do it faster because, again, the algorithm might get faster and we have a better CPUs in the future, sure. I mean, they're spinning big Bitcoin right now. Why couldn't they do problem solving? And that is the reason for machine learning. It's problem solving and analyzing huge data sets within a time frame that we can actually make something out of them.
And how did can you tell us how machine learning or that revolutionized that changed astronomy in your field?
It's all about, again, processing large sets of data. But even though the human eye can identify abnormalities and special phenomena that the machine cannot capture. So, for example, there have been lots of all sky surveys, right? And their goal was to actually classify galaxies. So you have to actually feed the machine what exactly a galaxy should look like, and based on the appearance, it would actually classify it as spiral or elliptical. But at the same time, even a machine cannot tell, the inclination of the galaxy and whether the galaxy has more structure or less structure, things like that. So that's why there was a citizen science project out there called Galaxy Zoo, which actually invited citizen scientists to classify galaxies and classify them in a much more rigorous way, more detailed. So astronomy has been a pioneer, if not anything else, when it comes to machine learning and data, but still the algorithms are evolving. And again, if you want to capture the interesting objects, they're usually the ones that are not necessarily classifiable within a specific category. You really need to take a look with your eyes on those objects. The same thing with variable stars, right? You feed a specific shape of a light curve, and it just goes up and down, or it's flat and then goes down, or something like that. But how about everything in between? And this is where things become very interesting.
And finally, spirituality. Do you think it's overrated or underrated, or accurately rated?
I think it's as accurately rated, just right. It becomes overrated only when it completely controls humans' lives, and it does not allow us to live a fulfilled life. It makes us live in fear, for example, our lives, and that's not why we're on this planet. I am spiritual. I really am. I do believe in God, and I do believe in powers that are above and beyond my own comprehension. But yeah, I believe in love, though. The God of love. So it's not, I'm not going to be scared of my life. I'm not going to live in fear.
That's interesting. So yeah, I think the point about having a rational thinking, basing opinions and beliefs based on reality and reason. I think that's the point. I think that what that you said. I think it's very important. So that people don't let religion or any other supernatural stuff or any blind faith take control over their lives. They should they should have agency in their lives. That's an important point.
We should have agency in our lives, but also we need to recognize that we don't understand what we don't understand. There's some things that even science cannot explain for us.
Definitely, Dr. Kafka. And so I think we are at the end of the show now. Dr. Kafka, so we thank you very much for your time, and we know it's in the middle of the night for you. I think it's close to 1:30 in the morning. And we really thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show. And thank you very much. And Jyothsna, Teja, do you want to say anything before we close the show?
Thank you, Sarath, for giving us an opportunity to participate in this engaging discussion with Dr. Kafka.
And I would really like Dr. Kafka to be accepting our request and being here. And it's been a great pleasure to be a part of this. Thank you very much.
We would definitely like to collaborate with you in future too, Dr. Kafka.
You know where to find me. I'm always available. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity, and a big applause to all of you for the amazing job you're doing, popularizing science, making sure that people know the value of data, and keep bursting myths.
Thank you, Dr. Kafka. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the show, for listening to the show. And you can listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, and you can watch the video again on our Facebook page, Indian Humanists Official, and on our YouTube channel, Indian Humanists as well. And we welcome all of you to work with Science for Society and the Indian Humanists and SAHA for building a culture of science and upholding the Constitution of India, a fundamental duty of Article 51AH to promote scientific inquiry, a spirit of reason, the spirit of scientific inquiry and humanism in India. Thank you, Ananda.